Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and EFL pundit legend extraordinaire, Mr. Sam Parkin. We are going to be talking for the next hour or more about the greatest league in world football, the EFL Championship. Sam, do you get to the point with this now where you actually enjoy the international breaks more than the weeks where we're actually playing? I quite like these podcasts. Bit of a chance to breathe when things wind down, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good fun to do the podcasts. I'm not so sure I enjoy the international breaks. I used to click into gear. I've probably said this on the previous podcast. I normally click into gear and hoover up all the League One and League Two games that are being shown, televised or broadcast nationally. Surplus to requirements at the moment. Surplus.
Me.
So I'm going on my holidays tomorrow. Well, I'm going to Glasgow on a plane. It's almost a holiday. But
really quickly, tell us why, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 10 years, not to the day, but 10 years since I won the League Cup with St Mirren up there. So brilliant team with John McGinn.
Put your medals on the table.
Do you know what? It's near. No, it's downstairs. It's downstairs in the bedroom. Yeah, John McGinn, Kenny McLean. For any elder statesmen that are watching this evening, Gary Teal of Wigan fame. He was in that team.
He was in the team that got promoted that pipped Ipswich in 2004-05. Remember him well.
Brilliant Paul Jewell Wigan team. Stephen Thompson, another one. Burnley and Cardiff. He was the main man really in that side. So, going up there for an anniversary dinner tomorrow. And basically just an excuse to have 48 hours without the children. So very much looking forward to a pint of tenants.
Cool. Everybody get involved. If you're listening on the podcast feed, you can come and join us live each and every Thursday, 7 p.m. Have your say in the live chat. We appreciate both of you. Do all hit the thumbs up. I said both of you, both types of listeners. We hopefully have more than two listeners, Sam. Shall we crack through the results? Remember, we normally have a full round to preview, so hopefully we can go into a little bit more depth. There's a poll going in the chat right now for the nominees for the September Championship Manager of the Month. We'll talk about the Player of the Month as well in a little bit. But these are the results, Sam, that we're going to be reflecting on, particularly as it pertains to your Parkin's pick on Friday night in John Eustace's last game in charge of Birmingham. It was Blues 3, West Brom 1. Early kickoff, maybe affected by a red card at half-time for Sunderland. Sunderland 0, Middlesbrough 4. The Borough streak continues. Cardiff 1, Watford 1. Sam, Watford director of football out earlier today or yesterday, I think, as well. Never a dull moment. Coventry 1, Norwich 1. Coventry can't stop drawing. Ipswich 4, Preston 2. I was there. Can talk chapter and verse about that. Leeds 2, Bristol City 1. Runaway leaders, Leicester, 10 wins out of 11. They beat Stoke 2-0. It was Millwall 2, Hull 2. Swansea, they can't stop winning either. Plymouth 1, Swansea 3. A big ouch for Sam's QPR here. Rangers 0, Blackburn 4. Less said, I think, the better about Sheffield Wednesday 0, Huddersfield 0. And a great point for Rotherham over at Southampton. Saints 1, Rotherham 1. I haven't missed any Sunday games. No, I have not. Get involved in the comments. Sam, what is going to be your Parkin's pick?
Changing up this week, aren't we? We are going for the big news of St Andrews. We're going for John Eustace, harsh sacking, and Wayne Rooney's appointment.
Can I just stand up for Sam really quickly? Because everyone in the podcast knows Sam is mates with John Eustace. Can we please respect that boundary? Whether or not Sam has spoken to John is irrelevant to the purposes of this conversation. We are going to give our general views on what's been a not controversial, maybe opinion splitting bit of movement, Sam. Partly, I think probably half and half, as in Eustace going at 6th place. I think a bit of the language as well, a no fear approach, and certain things in the statement, which was clearly written by Gary Cook when you saw the statement he put out the next day, and the identity of the man coming in Wayne Rooney. Go for it, Sam.
Yeah, if many Championship managers are superstitious, they're not going to be coming on our podcast anytime soon.
No!
We've had one guest and he's out the door. No, I'm happy enough to say that. Obviously, I sent him a message late on Monday night. I think it would have been obviously before the Rooney announcement. He got back to me, but I'm sure he's been inundated with messages. Just wanted to obviously reiterate my disappointment for him, because he's an incredibly honest, professional manager. I think he's got really good experience now. I think he's got 7 years experience now after the 2 years at Kidderminster, and subsequently worked under some brilliant managers at QPR before going it alone at Birmingham. And I think it stings a little bit. Obviously, I'm upset for him. It stings a little bit because he had the opportunities to move on prior to joining Birmingham, and given that he's a solid old lad, I think that has deeper repercussions for probably the family. And I think that's something we don't always think about, that he's waited for this opportunity, how proud he must be to be leading one of the biggest clubs in the second city. So I feel for him in that regard. There's some noise coming out yesterday that he's probably covered himself in an enormous amount of dignity if he's known about this for a number of weeks. And that is the bloke that I got to know during my playing career. Incredible professional. Didn't shirk a challenge when he was out of teams previously. I remember at Watford him being out of the picture, came back to captain the club, play another 100 or so games before doing a similar type of job at Derby. So he's a brilliant guy, very diligent, and he'll be back, and he'll be obviously at the top of a lot of people's lists moving forward. Is Wayne Rooney a better manager than John Eustace right now? I would probably say no, in my honest opinion. That said, I did enjoy watching them at Derby. I really did. And only people on the training ground know exactly how much of an input Liam Rosenior had, whether some of the tactics were Wayne Rooney led. I've heard whispers and I've spoken to some of the players, and I think, Liam was very much...
Can I chip in there, Sam? Because I'm sure you did as well as I. I saw Derby behind closed doors and heard everything that was coming from the touchline. Liam Rosenior did a lot.
Yeah, that's what we're led to believe. Still, though, it was a bit of a surprise to me to be seeing Wayne Rooney in his infancy instructing players to build as they were, play really high-risk football. I actually was pretty blown away. I know that's a big statement, but when I went there during that period and watched them, I went, wow, I was not anticipating this level of sophistication in terms of the rotations and the plan at trying to progress the ball up the pitch. So,
Sam, did you find it a bit overly methodical, a bit Scott Parkery sometimes?
Maybe a little bit. I think what I'm trying to say is that for years on end, and we've probably got a habit of doing this in this country, he has been, very much mocked the early part of his footballing journey because of probably the way that he came across in front of the press. And he was a very young bloke, shoved into the limelight. I think Wayne Rooney, when he speaks over the last decade, is very, very encapsulating. I honestly really enjoy listening to him.
He would probably categorise himself as a lower working class Liverpudlian, wouldn't he, as well? And we expect these guys to learn how to speak in front of... I always think just watch that David Beckham thing, the transformation in how he was able to speak. But sorry, continue your thought.
I just wanted to say, I think he's incredibly impressive. And he's someone... Listen, my favourite hour and a half of the week is 6:30 Monday night on Sky Sports, watching Carragher do his analysis. And when I hear Wayne Rooney speak, I'm drawn to it, and I like to hear him. So, and Dave Febbs has come in with a really good point there as well. This isn't all going to be on him. This is him plus, I think, 4 coaches that are coming in with him. So it's a collective now.
So Ashley Cole, John O'Shea, Carl Robinson, and someone Shuttleworth.
Paul Shuttleworth, I think it is.
Yeah.
Carl Robinson's obviously a very experienced coach now, has been coaching at a very high level in MLS for a number of years. So, and been a number one, and knows the Midlands really well. I think he played for a couple of clubs there, a couple of years older than me. So he'll know the level pretty well. John O'Shea's obviously coached as as well. Ashley Cole's had a difficult start to his coaching career at Everton and Chelsea. But I think it's a collective. And I kind of said the same when we were talking about Darren Moore a few weeks ago, whether he was going to evolve and whether he could be tactically better at Huddersfield. I don't think it's always down to the number one. And I think that was evident at Derby. So, listen, we'll have to wait and see how they go. In my opinion, people talking about playoffs as minimum, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They need to consolidate. And if they are in a position to attack it in January, then maybe we could be talking about a sensational story. But they've got to put themselves in touching distance. And with what they've got right now, I still think they're short. My last point would be, and I think a lot of people have probably read between the lines that the ownership, the decision makers weren't enamoured with Eustace football. I look at that squad and I think that needed time to change, to evolve. If he went this season and started playing like Burnley from last season, they wouldn't have accumulated anywhere near the points. They haven't got the players, in my opinion. They haven't got a goalkeeper. They haven't got centre-halves. They haven't got enough centre midfielders. And they haven't got a centre forward. In my mind, they've got really good fullbacks now. They've got really good flair in the wide positions, albeit not players I don't think that are particularly established and proven in the Championship, like your Dembele's, like your Keshi Andersons, Stansfield, brilliant young player, played this season in League One. Let's get real. If they're going to play a ridiculously expansive game with this set of players, for me, they wouldn't have had as many points as they do. So he's done a brilliant job. And in time, I'm sure he would have changed. But yes, they're still resilient, still quite reliant on set pieces, not overly technical, some of the players. But with what he's got at his disposal, I'm sorry. If this changes overnight, I'll eat my hat because I think they need better players. And of course, that'll naturally come, I'm sure.
Great stuff, Sam. Look, I'm not going to come back because I did a whole video on this on the channel, so I'll be repeating myself.
Where's your link? Get your link up. Flash your link up, son. Get your link out.
What do you think? This is professional Parkin? Jesus Christ! No. If you want to hear my take, it's elsewhere on my channel. But loads of great comments. We'll pop as many up on the screen as we can. We'll respond to a few as well, and we are going to move on to. Worldie of the week. Get your shouts in, not necessarily from the team you support, as I say every week, for your favourite goal in round 11 of the Championship. Not necessarily even your favourite. Why not just say which one was the best one? Sam and I agree on this. What is our Worldie of the week, Mr. Parkin?
We are going for, I think he was, the super sub at St Mary's, Jordan Hugill.
And this opens up a beautiful strand of conversation. We don't want to do Jordan Hugill down. We will talk about his goal, but the numbers, I'll bring them up in a minute. Just if you're a Southampton fan watching this, seeing that type of chance be taken when, frankly, a lot of easier chances were missed by Saints. But, Sam, you've pointed out the alarmingly bad Rotherham away record. It's 5 defeats in 6. I'm sure Rotherham fans need something a bit more tangible than the numbers we're going to look at and a volley in the top corner with 10-15 to go. But what a strike. And can we say, cliche alert, great touch for a big man.
The first thing I wanted to say, I've got a few points on the goal itself. Really good change of shape from Matt Taylor when they looked like they were going under in the first half. I think he went to a back 3, back 5 quite quickly in the game, and that seemed to, I wouldn't say stem the flow, but they could have been out of sight by that stage. That was really good tactical change from the boss. Hugill's finish, though, strange club selection, I thought. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that is there to be struck. He side-footed it.
It's
very unorthodox, but my goodness, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's probably actually harder to do, to generate that type of power because he's got to be moving quick. Otherwise, the keeper could maybe have adjusted his feet. And I loved, second point, that he was wheeling. He was wheeling off in the air when the ball was still travelling towards the net. So he knew that he had connected absolute perfection. It was a brilliant goal, but one that you had to rewind and watch again. Has he side-footed that? How has he side-footed that? Glorious.
Glorious. Sam, if you were working in football data, you would disregard this game as a complete outlier, wouldn't you? Look at that, 80% possession for Saints, 3.23 XG for Saints, and 0.14, of which I'm sure. Oh, in fact, we've got Hugels there. Yeah, 0.01 the XG for that goal. Just talk to me the wider point, if you can, a little bit about Southampton. I know 7 points during the week. You'll take that every week in the Championship, won't you? And you'll be right up the top of the table. For Rotherham, they've been bailed out by a brilliant goal. I'm still concerned about their away record.
Yeah, absolutely. We still going back to Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough. Is that the last win? I think I churned that out on a podcast early part of this season. I think that is the last win on the road, isn't it? Which was
when was that?
No, it wasn't. Was it a Sheffield Wednesday? No, it can't have been, can it?
No, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United.
Yeah, you're
Sorry.
right. Yeah.
What am I doing? Wrong division.
Right,
Sheffield
City,
United. Yeah. In like February, March, wasn't it? So we're still going back to that, which is incredible. And yeah, I sung Rotherham's praises, didn't I, during a Parkin's pick or something or other early part of the season. And it was more, listen, they're going to be up against it. And I probably said that during the piece, but it was more about Matty Taylor trying to change the footballing culture there, if I'm allowed to get away with that, from what Paul Warne's Rotherham were so successful at over a number of years. And I still stick to that. Whether they can survive, I think it's going to be touch and go. But I admire Matt Taylor. Every dealing I've had with him, I admire him. And I think he's trying to imprint a more technical, fast attacking style. And there's going to be a lot of bumps on the road, but that's a good place to hopefully turn a bit of a corner. Southampton, difficult because I saw them obviously with Alcaraz playing the false 9 position, and they didn't create bundles, but they got the results. And now they've gone back to a more orthodox 9, and Che Adams just doesn't really look to be in the mood right now. But you have to look at the statistics here, and I had the same as you. I mean, 15 shots inside the box here. It's quite rare when you're looking at like who scored, I think was the website.
Don't forget Ross Stewart, though. He might gobble up a few of those.
No, absolutely. That was the next point I was going to make. But Johansson made 7 saves here, which is quite unique as well. I think
good keeper, isn't he?
Even if a team's been peppered with the shots, it's quite rare to see a goalkeeper with those numbers. So clearly he was busy. It's difficult to tell the Saints fans to be patient. I think they're frustrated by the substitutions, maybe the timing. I think he did a triple change in this game, and they lost their momentum post substitutions. But you have to factor in Ross Stewart. I will go out and say that I've been a massive fan of his. I think during his rise, I think he could really add something to this team. And at the moment, Che Adams and to a lesser extent Armstrong aren't the powerhouses that we thought they were going to be at this level. So they need to get him fit, because they've put up the money, haven't they? And the fans will get very, very frustrated if he doesn't appear quite soon.
100%. Right, we are going to move on. So give us in the comments your cause for concern. And I've got a funny feeling, ladies and gentlemen, we might be getting our first 2-time cause for concern in the history of this podcast. Let's lower the tone. A bit spoiled for choice this week, but I think we know where this is going. Sam, hefty home defeat for
Queen's Park Rangers.
Oh dear. So QPR were the actual inaugural, the dubious pleasure cause for concern after getting battered by Watford on the opening day. One thing that always worries me, Sam, is when we sit here and you're quite good at spotting the canary in the coal mine. So the evidence that a trend's going to happen before it happens. And we thought maybe we'd got that with QPR. Oh, this is improving. I can see this and this and this going in the right direction. Still haven't scored any points. 2 wins all season, and the current run, it's a 0-point week off the 3-game week, and the block of games in between international breaks no wins, Sam. So that bothers me that we thought, here comes the improvement, and it hasn't turned into any results, has it?
No, it hasn't. And yeah, if you flash back a few weeks, I read quite a lot about that Cardiff success in particular, less so at Middlesbrough maybe, but the Cardiff one almost taking the Bluebirds by surprise by changing one or two things. And that was the game we actually analysed. But if you look at the subsequent results, you look at that performance at the weekend, I wish I had my WhatsApp open so I could just read you my brother's critique who was at the game. We'd have to be put on after probably midnight actually for the torrent of swear words that he threw my way. Yeah, I mean, he basically said the midfield's non-existent, one of the worst he'd ever been to. The contrast between the football that clearly Blackburn players are having the repetition, the moves on the training ground. I think fullback, the wide positions has been a problem for QPR. I think some teams have isolated or identified that Smith and Kai on that side has been a major problem. Q this week, Larkesh, who I think was on loan at Barnsley, if memory serves me right, last year.
Yeah,
a left footer,
from Fulham,
left footer playing at right back at the weekend and had a calamity for the fourth goal. This is just the start of a rant. And Duke McKenna, I think, played in midfield. And this is something I've thought of for a number of years, Ben. Why do QPR have 22, 23-year-old lads at the club that clearly aren't up to the level? And this isn't having a go at those two players in particular. This is just having a go at the bigger problems outside of the management team. The youth setup produces so few players over the last decade or so. And at the moment, you have these 22, 23-year-olds that get presented opportunities in the Championship and they're not up to speed. Why they haven't been moved on by this time, I don't understand it. So at the weekend, that was a real surprise to see that. I think the shape of the team was a surprise when you think that the only time this has been deployed, the back four, was at Watford on the opening day, and I think at Southampton in 2 away games. And they were missing arguably their best midfield shield in Sam Field. There's a little rhyme for you.
That was excellent. That was a triple, yeah.
And when not even with a back three to give yourself a bit of protection, but with a back four, 2 centre halves who, are really struggling at the moment with a very lightweight midfield in front. So I think the structure of the team was really off. I think you had to think of solidity going into this game. Clearly, those wide positions I'd already spoken about were exposed. Blackburn scored a goal. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was the Dolan goal, which was so similar to one scored last year at the same end. I think Rankin Costello supplied the ball last year, but it was just so similar and QPR just so susceptible to that type of move once more. So it's a massive problem. What they do, I don't know, because I think it would probably be, well, it would be a payoff, certainly, wouldn't it, to cut ties with Gareth Ainsworth now, and whether there's the finances to bring someone in who's going to be able to come and change the course of action, I don't know. It's sad because I went to a couple of games back in the last season,
Can I dive in, Sam, quickly?
Go on.
While you're in full flow. First of all, to say thank you to Balboa Guy. International break drives me nuts. I think it drives Sam nuts, not as much as QPR driving nuts at the moment. But thank you so much for the super chat. And Sam, I had a question from Dave. He was so worried about this. He WhatsApped it to me earlier on, said, you must read this to Sam. Regarding a manager, quote, losing the dressing room, what's it like from a player's point of view? I think he's kind of alluding to the fact there that if perhaps the players have lost trust in Ainsworth, what does that look like? And perhaps do you see that being the case?
Wish I'd have prepared for this. I suppose his USP has been such a collective, and I really believed that and felt it at Wickham, especially when I spoke to his players. I remember going to I'm digressing a little bit. I remember going to that final at Wembley when they beat Oxford.
Mackie was on the bench, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
And it was such a surreal experience being in that stadium anyway with no fans. But the noise that the substitutes and the directors and the technical staff of Wycombe created on that day was like nothing I'd ever seen. And I think you have to be a certain type of character to buy into that, because I'm not sure I probably was, because I was quite self-conscious, and I think you had to not really care about what anyone else thinks when you play for a Gareth Ainsworth team. And I don't think that probably transmits to probably some of the wages, some of the players, what's going on at QPR. I'm just not sure. I wasn't sure it was going to translate then, and I'm definitely not sure it's going to translate now. As to the dressing room being a bit broken, I'm not sure, but that collective, if it's not there, if there's little splinter groups and people aren't pulling in the same direction and everyone's got agendas, that's when it breaks up. And an agenda can be they want to get out. And it seems to me that quite a lot of the players don't want to be there. And I think that means that some of them probably aren't pulling their weight. And we know with his philosophy, if you like, that he wants them to use every ounce of energy every time they step over the white line. If that's not there, then his tactical sessions, his tactical approach is going to be lost as well. So it's a real mess. I've got loads of stats in front of me, and there's no point in going to any of them really. But I think a year since they scored more than once in their ground is probably a good way to finish.
Well, that's not technical. That's psychological, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish with something to like, and like, I don't feel sorry per se for football fans, but I'm just thinking the people that go every week to watch that,
expensive there as well.
How much more can you take before you go, do you know what? Let's go and watch Brentford. Let's go and watch Hampton and Richmond. Let's go and watch Hamworth Town. Let's go and do something with my son or daughter this afternoon, rather than go into another desperate defeat. So need to improve at home. I mean, this is, I think, the worst home run now in over 100 years. They haven't won in 11. One win in 21. It's desperate. And you can get away with it. You can get away with it if you're picking up the odd victory at home. But like I said, the problems are bigger than Gareth Ainsworth. The club, I think, is in a mess.
Oof. QPR making their second appearance in Cause for Concern. Keep your brilliant comments coming in. We'll get as many of them up. We'll go to Q&A. We should be able to get to it earlier than normal because we've got no preview to do. Let's hope we can calm Sam down and go to more positive matters. So this is not a player to watch for the next round, Sam. This is a player to watch for the next bunch of games. I think 5 before the next international break. And who is that man, Sam?
We're going for Jonesy, Jonah, down the right at the Riverside.
Now, you said something about Chris Willock of QPR. It's a good segue, isn't it? That I would also say about Isaiah Jones. I remember, so this Wilder was there, I think, at this point at Middlesbrough, because Warnock gave Jones his debut. I think Sheffield United. So I was at Sheffield United v Middlesbrough. And I think they hammered him, actually. It was the year they lost in the playoffs. I think it was 4-1, possibly. And he looked absolutely lethal. You know, where you're watching a game and you're like, at some point in this game, that guy's going to score or make a goal. He looks a cut above with his acceleration, the smoothness he was doing everything with. And even if you'd put him further back at wing back, you still couldn't get near him. He got a whole bundle of assists in that season, and then just went off the boil. I had him really highly rated. If you'd have told me last season, Sam, before the fact, Middlesbrough getting in the playoff semi-finals, I'd assume Isaiah Jones would have been a key player. But for whatever reason, he didn't really show up last season. But he looks back at it now, which is interesting. 3 goal contributions already. Did he get one at the weekend? I think possibly he did. I'll double check that in a second. But are you back on the Isaiah Jones train? Because I think when he's at it, he is quality, Sam.
Yeah, I thought it was, to just put him in with a collection of players just for the moment. I thought it was really fascinating that Michael Carrick went back to almost the spine of that team that got him so much success. Obviously, with two glaring omissions at the top of the pitch, but the two centre halves, two midfielders, Hackney and Barlasser were there. Obviously, last season, Jones on one side, McGree on the other side. Crooks has been back in. Coburn, I know he had a loan spell last year, but you catch my drift. These guys have, I think,
Just quickly dive in, Sam. I'm so sorry. There's a couple of guys saying some pretty heavy off-pitch stuff might have been happening last season, which I certainly didn't
right.
didn't know
Okay.
about in terms of Jones, if that's correct. Sorry, continue, Sam.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, yeah, that's totally understandable. In a football context, I'm sure he would have been frustrated not to get more game time. Marcus Force played a little bit over on the right hand side, didn't he? But yeah, I thought it was interesting to see him back, on the right hand side, along with a collection of those players that played last year. And I think his first 90 was the start of this run, and he's played from the off in every game. The goal against Cardiff was his first in the Championship in 2023. So, this has been a really good month for him. I loved the assist for Matt Crooks, isn't it? The other day, Matt Crooks' movement was brilliant, actually. If someone, he's not a centre forward, but young kid watching a striker, a forward player, how to keep alive and how to keep your central defender opponent guessing, it's absolutely perfect. Watch that one back. And I think Jones is watching him. Crooks makes about 2 runs, leaves the defender for dead and roofs it in the end. So I thought that was a really sophisticated assist and sophisticated finish. And they're going to need him flying for the kind of reason I started my point with, having lost so many goals. And I've lost the bit of paper that I scribbled all the goals of I've forgotten his name now. Chucks, good old Chucks, and Archer and Ramsey.
Archer, Ramsey.
Oh, it's not Chucks,
Giles.
is it? It's Chuba Akpom, sorry. Yeah. I'm getting my Arsenal protégés mixed up there.
Where's he? Charlton? Chucks and EK?
Yeah. They were probably similar time coming through at Arsenal. But yeah, they're going to need that spread of goals, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? That's going to be clear this year. Although, if we're doing predictions a little bit later on, old Latte Lath, I've got very high hopes for that man, and a few people have slagged him off after he spurned a few chances early part of his Borough career. But I'm quite hot on him. But him, Isaiah Jones, McGree, Coburn, they all need to chip in with probably 6 to 10 goals to get Middlesbrough where they want to be.
Great, and great to see him back, because I always remember it was the first game of the season under Warnock, and I was surprised to see him in. But we've been told, you and I firsthand, about Warnock, that everything gets torn up and literally anyone has a chance of getting in the team if they train well. So good to see Isaiah Jones back. What we'll do, Sam, quickly is we'll just look at Player of the Month and Manager of the Month, because the nominations are out. I'm sure the photographer's been round today, and whoever's won knows they've won already, and we'll find out tomorrow. But the poll is going for Manager of the Month, Sam: Baloo, McKenna, Mowbray, Rossinia. McKenna, now I know and you have Ipswich Town links as well, 86% going for McKenna. A little bit lucky, we must acknowledge, that Leicester's game against Blackburn wasn't in September, it was in October. So they actually played less. They would have had... did McKenna get 13 points? I think they would have had 12 with that defeat. But I think McKenna's the right call on Manager of the Month there. I can see the shouts for Baloo, given the transfer embargo and the expectations there. What's your take? And let us know in the comments as well.
What's the points between Ipswich and Leicester in the month?
Points. 28 and 30.
2 points more Ipswich got.
Across the month,
yeah.
Ipswich got 13. Did they get 9? Leicester, but they only played 4 games. No, did they? I probably added that. Yeah, 3 and a defeat, yeah.
To go all romantic for a moment, I think if Ipswich are able to achieve the incredible this season, I think we probably will look back at September and think this was the month where is this September we're talking about? Obviously,
Yeah.
the month where everyone sat up and took notice, and I'm talking about everyone, even people that don't follow the championship. Pundits speaking about
Oh,
them
Sam,
across
the
the board.
Athletic,
Yeah,
loads of the Nationals. I'm getting phoned up by Opta Analytics to talk about Ipswich, for God's sake. No one cared for the last 20 years.
yeah, and I think there's obviously so many variations to how teams play football, and what is people's preference and what is the beautiful game. But I think to see Ipswich not necessarily absolutely having total ball domination, but then still destroying teams, I think I know that's very simplistic couple of sentences I've given you there, but I think that's almost the blueprint. That's probably almost what every football fan wants to see: fast, attacking, powerful football. The players look so fit, incredibly fit and strong, but then if you throw in the tactics as well, and we saw that last year. I mean, the games I covered of Ipswich, people couldn't really get to grips with that right hand side, and I think there's like even more facets to Ipswich's game now. The set piece the other day that Chaplin smashed in, so this is an incredible time for a minute, and he deserves it this month. And I suppose, I don't know. Answer me this. Would you still be concerned about them being there for the entirety because of the potential goals they may give away in some games?
Yeah. There's obviously a regression to the mean coming from 9
Hmm.
wins in 11. You know that's going to happen, and you're right. It is leaky at home. We've now had 3-4 against Leeds, 4-3 against Blackburn, 3-2 against Cardiff, 3-2 against Wolves, and 4-2 against Preston. I mean, it's glorious to watch. But yeah, and we're going to do a bit on Leeds later, and I think a lot of people now, and I hope it's not this boring, would be saying Leicester look like they're going to win it. And right now, you could look at those two for second and third, couldn't you? I'm sure something else will happen that we don't know about. But yeah, just fantastic. Can I just move us on, Sam, quickly?
Yeah.
Player of the month. We can't put two polls in the chat, so you're just going to have to stick your answers in. Remember, this is September, so please do disregard the last two games, which would have been in October. Finn Azaz of Plymouth, Jack Clark of Sunderland, Liam Lindsay of Preston, and Steffi Mavadidi. I thought it was going to be Keane and Dewsbury Hall, Sam, but I realised, obviously, his quick splurge of goals were in the October games. I think I'm probably with Jack Clark on there. We'll let the comments fill up there. But what's your take there, Sam? Finn Azaz, Jack Clark, Liam Lindsay, and Steffi Mavadidi.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because when you're going back a few games and there's been so much happen in the last couple of weeks, especially Preston-wise, which would probably rule Liam Lindsay out of the podium. No, I think it's Jack Clark, isn't it? If we think back to what he was producing a few weeks ago, almost carried them for a few weeks, and just continuing that trend of Sunderland being able to motor on without having out and out strikers to call upon. It's certainly the best period I can remember from him, although I loved watching him tail end of last year. I thought him and Roberts in particular were playing with such confidence. So I'd go with him. Mavadidi's a really interesting player. I think still probably needs to improve his output, his end product at times. I was fortunate to catch him on that brilliant night at St Mary's, where he looked like an exceptional talent.
He
And
could have scored
Dewsbury Hall,
5 in that game, couldn't he?
yeah, you're right. And Dewsbury Hall, he was just going through a bit of a mending process, I think, towards the tail end of September, where there'd been a bit of criticism come his way. Yeah, early on in the season, but because he scored the 2 on opening day and not kind of carried games to that extent subsequently, he'd started to get a little bit of stick, and they were questioning whether him and Didi were going to be good enough as the number 8s. But Dewsbury Hall's he's a beautiful footballer. Beautiful footballer.
If you stop me now, Sam, and we're just guessing, obviously a million things will happen that we don't know. He looks like player of the season rather than player of the month if things keep transpiring for Leicester the way they do and for him possibly.
Well, yeah, and even that Norwich game, which came 3 or 4 days after the thumping win at St Mary's, he was brought on after about 70 minutes and the whole complexion of the game changed. Honestly, there was Casadei and one of the new signings playing as eights.
As a Turkish lad. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, did this previously on a podcast, didn't we? I can never get his name. And he came on and just the poise, the ability to play the pass through the eye of a needle, when it's a little bit tight, and that secured the victory for him. So his impact was improving towards the tail end of the month, but maybe we'll be talking about him as the player of the month in a few weeks' time for October.
We may well be. Right, we're going to try and do some kinds of predictions, and the great poet laureate that is Sam Parkin has come up with an interesting twist on this for you this week. So get involved in the comments. We're going to play on the beers or on the brink. So we're in the international break. Which manager might have kicked back fairly confident? His machine is well oiled and he's going to pick things up and might have an adult beverage or two just to chill out through the international break. Who's on the beers and who's on the brink? Who's going to be a little bit concerned and having the players in for extra days and working even more than he would be if it was a 3-game week? Let us know you're on the beers or on the brink. Sam, who's on the beers for you?
If Michael Duff isn't reclining somewhere with a 4-pack of alcoholic or non-alcoholic continental lager at this moment, I would be extremely surprised. I mean, he looks like a lager man, then he probably with a bit of alcohol in it, but
sometimes cider.
Yeah. No, we can't start that again. Where is the fella where is the fellow who just inundated me with office stuff last week? What a turnaround. Incredible turnaround. And I thought it was at the stage where it was almost getting a bit naughty, I thought. The stick that was getting directed his way. And I think we were all aware that Barnsley took a little bit of a while to get going. But to win 4 from 5, 13 points from 15, when his job was almost on the line, I would say. That's not from anyone with any proper knowledge, but just had that sense. And I think the signings have really helped. There he is. I think the signings have certainly helped, and I think I almost mocked the amount of left backs that seem to be being signed on deadline day or around deadline day. And I think actually the ability to field a proper left back and a proper left-sided centre half in Bashir Humphreys has probably just tipped him over the edge to make this change in formation. And my goodness, it's had a remarkable impact. And if you look at the profile of some of those Swansea lads, particularly in the forward areas, it's difficult now for me to get in my thought process that a 3-5-2, a direct-ish team was going to be successful. So I think he's shown a great degree of flexibility, it would seem. I think there's good variety in the games at the moment. I'm not saying this is back to Brendan Rodgers, Martinez territory, but I think Rushworth is kicking on occasions. But I think that obviously you'd be naive not to play through Matt Grimes at times, and with Patino and Jamie Patterson, there's some really diminutive technical footballers there that are just going to be completely wasted if the ball is going back to front. So signings, the shape change, the tempo they've been playing with, they just look like they've got a hell of a lot more balance. And I think it's huge credit to him at a massive, massive point in his career, probably.
And we're going to find out a hell of a lot more, because look at this coming up in the next block. They've got Leicester, they've got Watford, they've got Blackburn, who are going to make a load of chances. They've got Sunderland, and they've got to come to Ipswich. Keep your on the beers on the brink. I must read this one out. Someone says Wayne Rooney is on the brink already after one day at Birmingham. That's life as Wayne Rooney. Who's on the brink, do you think, Sammy?
Yeah, we're going to have to go a little deeper here, aren't we? But we've gone for Preston North End.
So this is racked full of caveats because so let's make all the fair acknowledgements to Preston first, who have A, had an absolutely brilliant start and are third in the championship table. And B, have had a horrible run of fixtures last week, including away trips to Leicester and Ipswich, who are running away as the top two at the moment. But does feel like that could slip into a bit of a drop off if it's not allowed to fester a bit, don't you think, Sam, at Preston?
What do you reckon Ryan Lowe was like after that 4-0 defeat against West Brom when he knew he had to play Leicester and Ipswich next? Do you reckon he was like, oh no? Do you know what I mean? Well, he would have loved just a point from that game. Do you know, just a scabby 0-0, and he must have known, probably knew what was coming in the next 7 days. So yeah, it's been horrible, hasn't it? I don't know. There's a few things I looked at a couple of days ago. 5 out of those 6 wins by the odd goal. And I know that's quite easy to throw in there, and I've been lambasted for that in the past.
Every time.
Just to dig a little bit deeper, I think it's the 3rd lowest XG4 in the division. Just Rotherham, maybe 4th. Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of saying Queen's Park Rangers again. And I don't like the terminology. They were just like running really hot. So I'll say they were very clinical in the opening weeks of the season. 22nd for average shots per game. Only Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham having fewer. 4th fewest goals last season. Joint fewest goals in the top half of the champ right now. So with Birmingham, that is. So I just think it was highly unlikely, probably, that brilliantly stingy back 4, back 5, what's with the goalkeeper, back 6, we're going to be able to continue the levels when they played against the better teams in the league, especially if they haven't been creating much. So in summary, is it just where Preston are? You know, they're still short of a talismanic front man. They're still waiting maybe for a couple of the new signings. Certainly the 2 signings, Osmajic and Jensen Frockayer. I say that differently.
Yeah, he scored at the weekend.
Yeah, to get that proper rhythm and to get settled. And again, Ben Whiteman has been used sparingly at the moment because I think they're just nurturing him back from injury. And yeah, maybe it's difficult to pick massive holes in the lineups against West Bromwich Albion and against Leicester, but against Ipswich without Jordan Storey, without Andrew Hughes, without McCann, who I think in essence is the legs in midfield, which we saw getting exposed, I think, quite often by Ipswich players running through Preston. And Whiteman not really up to speed to be their anchor right now. I think that was maybe the circumstances behind that defeat at Ipswich more than anything else. So, listen, I'm not completely writing off their chances, but to be so watertight, I think it was 6 goals conceded maybe in their opening, what would it be, 8 games to ship the 11 in 3. I didn't see that coming.
Well, and I think the other thing is, Sam, you can see a possible trend down, and we've been forecasting trends up for several teams. So there will be some passing in the corridors.
Can I just say finally, because I missed... If I went back to a year, 18 months ago, I would say for Ryan Lowe's ideal system and ideal style, they didn't have good enough wing backs. And I'm still saying that now.
Oh, they're playing Brad Potts and Robbie Brady at the weekend. They're both. And
I'm like annoyed with. I'm annoyed with myself that I've said that. But they brought that Miller in, who I watched play for Charlton a few years ago. I mean, he's not.
No, he played on the wing in the second half, but they went to back 4 then.
Yeah, I mean, he's
much better in a back 4. To be fair.
He's an out and out winger, but he's
Yeah.
been deployed at wing back in the opening weeks of the season, and he is not going to be the answer either. So, listen, Ryan Lowe knows a lot better than me, and he's a lot more experienced at doing what he does than me because I've never done it, and I'm sure he's trying to work out which way he can go. It's difficult when I look at the squad to fit them into like anything but the 3-5-2, despite not having the classic wing backs, if you like. I think they're maybe a bit short wide right. I don't know who could play that position. You could maybe stick Keane out there or the aforementioned Scandinavian. I'm not going to butcher his name again.
Mads Frokjær Jensen.
Yeah, but I just think that, something may be in the offing. It'd be really interesting to see what they come back with after the break. And my goodness me, it was needed, wasn't it? A little switch off for those players.
100%. Right, we're going to go to the quiz in a minute and then the Q&A. But firstly, Sam's favourite segment is Meltdown time. So normally our meltdowns are quite embarrassing for the melter, the melt.
Not the melt. That's full-blown Towie, that is, isn't it?
This one was actually pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it should have been a meltdown, and everyone was anticipating a meltdown, but he actually came across rather well. It's Daniel Farke's 10-minute striker monologue.
So if you haven't seen this, you must watch it. This is in the press conference before Leeds played Bristol City. So it'll be on YouTube or on the Leeds Twitter or something somewhere. And Farke's obviously had a stiff coffee or something, and he's a bit amped up, isn't he? And he gets asked, presumably for the 18th press conference in a row, why he doesn't play Joel Pirro at number 9 and Jorginho Ruta at number 10, because Pirro is obviously a very good finisher and Ruta's more mobile. And he very calmly, and let's be honest, this guy's a great talker anyway, and really good. I don't know whether there's something about the second language and how deliberate it is he uses his words. And he basically says, right, I'm going to explain to you in proper football terms, like I'd explain to a player, not a journalist. It's going to take me about 10 minutes, and then you're not going to ask me about this again. And he reels off lots of technical reasons. The main one really was about the strengths of the two players and about Ruta's ability to press as opposed to Pirro's. And then he goes into real Mourinho spiel about all the years he'd managed and how basically the top scorer in every division played for his team and that he knew what he was doing. But it's a great bit of entertainment. I wish we'd get more managers going like that in the press conferences. And of course, Joel Pirro scored from the number 10 position at the weekend. So, Sam, what was your take on the meltdown, which was quite thrilling? I thought it was brilliant. And what's your take on these two players who look, or he's been accused of putting them the wrong way around, but maybe they're not the wrong way around?
Yeah, I'm not really having that. I know there's a lot of conjuncture about it, but having seen them in the flesh on a couple of occasions, I think they can both do both roles during the game and flip-flop at times. And I think towards the end of the spiel, he spoke about Ruta setting one for Joel Pirro in the striker position at Southampton and him taking a bad touch and scuffing his opportunity. But with 5 goals in 8 games, I don't think it should be a subject that should be breached after every game and every training session. I absolutely loved it. It took a while for the kind of tactical points to come out because I think he was just so revved up. I think he said, I'm a bit on fire at one time, which I loved. And then towards the end, when he regaled tales of strikers past that had scored,
brilliant, wasn't it?
Golden boot, golden boot, golden boot. Basically, everyone he had, Timu Pukki, twice, which I loved when he threw that in. Timu Pukki twice, and I've won the league twice. But he didn't come across arrogant at all. He threw in a couple of I know my business
facts, as the kids would say, Sam.
Yeah, no, I thought it was brilliant. I loved the passion. I loved hearing a former striker talk about the position with such intricacies. And yeah, the technical side of it, it was about the intensity and the pressing and the running behind of which Ruta can deliver and Pirro cannot. And I thought the points about Swansea as well, that they're a bit more laboured in their build up, and every single pass or every single move was aligned to get Pirro on the ball and where it's different at Leeds, and they want different players on the ball. And they probably want to get it forward with a little bit more athleticism as well. And that's where Pirro is going to be a slightly different facet within that he can show. He can be the one that's getting the cutbacks and not going to be the one who's stretching the game. So no, I thought it was brilliant. I thought he came across brilliantly, and just annoyed that I never played for him in the Bundesliga too, because I would have golden booted it off as well.
I just add on to the end. When he was at Norwich, he played that Stieperman, who I saw play at left back, who is one of the most unorthodox players I've ever seen, I think, play at number 10. So he really, will put the right person in the right position, whoever it is, if it needs to. A few good points in there. Akpom and Weimann,
great point.
Top scorers. I would add in Mate Vidra in 2017-18, top scored the championship from the number 10 position as well. Right, Sam, have you got your thinking cap on? Because it's time for the week that was. Right, I caught up last week, and we can go whichever way round we like this week, apparently. So you can ask me first this week, Sam. So these are our weekly questions from our good friend Dave, who's in the chat at the moment. You can follow him on Twitter. Fevs Football Analytics at Fevs Football. You're going to ask me first this week then, Sam? What are we up?
Go on, mate. So we are playing...
Is it 640? 640 you?
Don't worry about the score, mate. Fevs is...
I know how competitive you are.
Fevs is totting it up somewhere. Right.
Okay.
Name of the game. Okay. In last weekend's games, there were 37 goals. But 4 of them were scored by Sons. That is players whose surname end in Son, like Maddison. Okay. Can you name the scorers? 4 points on offer. For example, I said James Maddison, Manuel Benson.
Arnor Sigurdsson scored 2. So do I get 2 points for that or just 1?
He only counts once in brackets.
Okay. Right. So
You've got 4 to get. One is snide.
Is it? Oh, is it like in the middle of the word?
No, that's got to be at the end.
Oh, okay. Birmingham West Brom. Frokje Jensen, if that is it, because that would be son of in Danish, wouldn't it?
He's an SEN. I just got the information this second.
That means he has special educational needs in the education system, apparently.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Terrific knowledge.
Terrific. Jamie Patterson, he assisted, didn't he? Cundall. Who scored for Leeds? Piru and Dan James.
Gonna need some answers from you.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I must be able to get one more.
Come on, look close to home for
Ipswich,
for one of your points.
Williams, Connor Chaplin, Caden Jackson.
We'll give you 2, shall we?
Did I get another one in there?
You got Sigurdsson, didn't you?
I've just seen one of the answers down there. So, yeah.
Sigurdsson and Jackson will give you, yeah?
Oh, Ben Gibson own goal. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I got 2, did I?
We'll give you 2.
Okay, Sam. Your question for Sam doesn't matter whether you go first. The name of the game in last weekend's game, there were 37 goals, but 8 were scored by 4 pairs of players who share the same first name or derivation of first name. If you can name the score, is great, but 4 points on offer.
Say that again.
So if it could be a Ben or a Benjamin. So players with the same first name or derivation of the first name. Could be a Tom or a Thomas. Could be 2 Toms.
What, scoring for the same team?
No, just scoring on the game round 11.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Got ya.
No cheating in the comments. One of these is lethal as well. By the way, we've mentioned 3 of these players already in the show. So same.
I think I can't think of anything.
Just think of common first names, Sam.
It's got to be a Dan.
You
I got one.
have...
I got one.
Go.
No, he didn't, did he? Dan James.
You can't have a Dan. There is no Dan.
There's no Dan. Sorry,
Dan. Dan. I'm gonna hurry you.
No, I've got nothing. Who scored for Birmingham in that game? Is that one?
Who scored for the other team in that game? And you're onto something.
John Swift.
And there's another John in the Coventry Norwich game.
Johnny Rowe.
Johnny Rowe. Right, you got one. Can you equalise now? I'm not going to help you.
God, this is awful. This is really bad. I don't think I've got anything.
Sam, like you said to me, look very close to home.
Sammy Smodics.
Sammy Smodics and Middlesbrough.
Sam Greenwood.
Yes, right. We're going to call that one.
Yeah, put me out of my misery. It was Ben one.
No. Joe Bryant and Joel Pirro.
No, come on.
And Ben Gibson and Ben Whiteman.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said Ben, didn't I? Yeah.
Did you?
I just said Ben there. Ben Whiteman I had, yeah, but I wouldn't have got the by one, yeah.
Can we call that one a draw?
Yeah, well, that was just... Sorry, everyone. That was terrible podcasting. Terrible YouTubing.
I enjoyed the squirming, and apologies if I offended anyone with my SEN comment. It's just when I hear SEN, that's the anagram I remember from my days working as a teacher. Desmond 2-2. Do we have a point each, or should we just keep it at 5-4?
Point each, yeah.
Point each. So it is 6-5 to Sam. Right. Okay. Feathers decreed. It's 5.5 versus 4.5 to get us up to the perfect 10. Right. Questions, guys. Let's do some Q&A to wrap this up. So anything you want to talk about, particularly any teams we haven't mentioned in the podcast so far. Haven't we mentioned really Cardiff, Hull, West Brom, Coventry, Bristol City, Millwall? Get your questions in now. By the way, if you're watching live on YouTube, please do hit the like button. We've got 70 likes. If everybody was to hit the like button now, maybe we could get up close and personal with 100. Get your questions in for some Q&A. Simon, added time has come down since the huge numbers at the start of the season. Is it because it has worked, or have refs reverted back to type?
I don't know, really. I think that probably it's a bit of
shock, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? I would say that the refs just went to extremes the opening weeks of the season, and that's plateaued a little bit. That might be my take on it. They faced quite a lot of opposition, I would say,
from you as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably worked in the Premier League to a degree. I don't know if it's funneled down. The inconsistencies still annoy me a little bit. I've seen quite a lot of...
Managers are still making their 65-minute substitution at 75 minutes. So they've still got it in their heads, haven't they?
Adam makes a good point here. It's exactly what I was about to say. The kicking the balls out for play, the brandishing of the cards, stuff like that, the consistency is not really there. But I think it's probably decreased the number of players that are doing that. So maybe it's had the desired effect that there's not the infringements maybe there of the rules that there once was.
Did Sam ever want to be a manager?
No, can't say I did. I've taken various teams at various levels in the years that followed my retirement from playing. And I did get a buzz from it. I really did, even if it was took Swindon's kind of under 12s a couple of times, under 13s or whatever it was. And I did a bit of work in a local charity in South London. Incredibly talented boys, you know, a tough area just near Millwall in Peckham it was, Elephant and Castle. Really talented lads, but obviously it was more than football. It was more teaching them good values and trying to guide them and keep them out of trouble and such like. But, you know, come the match day, I got an incredible buzz from it. So I can understand the pull for the ex-players and for the managers to stay in the game. Truth is, I think I needed a break from the game, the full-time game, the life, the travelling, the training ground, the same jokes you've heard for the last 20 years. And it's continued for a decade now. So it's I did my badges, my initial badges, my B license, but I think it's very unlikely now that I'll go back into coaching. I'd like to get back into a role of some description in football in time, but it would be a long way, you know, something well away from the actual performing on the pitch.
I'm going to roll these two together. Would you like to see VAR in the Championship? And do you think we'll ever see ex-players having a role as VAR officials? I would like to see it in the Championship. Yeah, I would. I'm a proponent even of just the slow churn. Well, you can answer me because you are an ex-player, but I don't think ex-players are going to. Maybe they could get involved in a consultancy in terms of the wording of the laws, but not actually as operatives. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe to get involved in some capacity. I don't think it really translates maybe to the VAR booth just because you've been a player. In light of everything that's happened the last few weeks, I'm massively against VAR. Couldn't care for it at all. I was never someone who took home the referee's performance and stewed over it. Obviously, I probably misbehaved on the pitch and called referees names at times, which is wrong on reflection and something I think that is inherently wrong with our sport in comparison to rugby. So I'd like to see that change in time. But yeah, I don't want VAR in the Championship. Absolutely not. What I would like to see now in the Premier League, if I'm going to be covering Premier League games, is probably designated people for that job, designated referees, designated referees assistants. Don't keep flip-flopping them between roles, because I think there is a large difference between being out there on the pitch, having to focus when you've got the fans, when you've got the players shouting in your ear, to the job that people are doing in front of the screens. I think that's a completely different skill set. And I think they need to focus in on that now.
Barrier to entry, because there's not the physicality need. You don't need to pass all the physical tests, do you? If you just sat watching a monitor and refereeing it from there. So possibly you could open it up to people.
How do you feel about the players? How do you feel about the referees travelling back from refereeing the other side of the world before games? I mean, I think it
doesn't look good when they F it up the following game, does it? You know, no one would say anything if they did a good. It's like any extra work, isn't it? We're going to go into an office quote about, but it's not affecting my performance.
Lost my chain of thought there. I think it always sometimes comes back to there's a stigma, that's the right terminology, to being an official, the kid that got picked last in the playground, etc., so on and so forth. But I think they have to be rewarded. It has to be lucrative enough for them to just do that role. And I think that's probably where we're at now. So make it a really good career and say, you are a Premier League VAR, you are a Premier League ref. That's your salary. You don't go, I know there's kind of freelancers' rights and what have you, and I'm a freelancer myself, so I know you got to earn £1 for your family, but I think make it lucrative enough to be a Premier League or an EFL official, and that's what you do. You don't have to be searching out other jobs. And I thought that mistake, if it was a mistake, can be eradicated straight away.
This is the real quiz, though. How many social media impressions do you think Rooney to Blues will generate? I think he'll beat Tom Brady and get 86 billion. But I suppose the serious point is that's the criticism there, that razzle dazzle doesn't get you in the playoffs, does it? And social media impressions don't. I know JC's being
did we get any
sarcastic.
kind of nod to the outgoing manager in today's presser?
I've
know that
listened
would
to
be,
it, to be honest. We'll have some Blues fans in there who will tell us.
I know that would be highly unlikely, but there was, when I was watching, I watched the first couple of minutes and I did feel a little bit
He's
like,
smart enough to say, and John's
yeah,
left us in a good position, and I appreciate the work he's done.
I know it's football, but myself, I would have been a bit reticent in taking that job. But I mean, it's very different, I suppose, for someone who's been a master of their playing craft at the highest level and then has lived in that bubble of being, one of the most recognisable faces in English football. And obviously, he's got real fire, hasn't he, Rooney? I think that's the difference between him and quite a lot of the top players who finish. And he's shown he's shown a great desire to go into Derby and conduct himself in the manner that he did and then go to DC. So I think he's built probably differently from me. But yeah, I think you go in somewhere and you might have felt a little bit sheepish given that the person who's leaving is, yes, they're in 6th. I know they're only 3 points from 15th or whatever if they were to lose the next couple, but still he's replacing someone who's done a pretty fine job.
Ian, you can see next to Ian's name there, he's got a lovely little symbol. If you can join up as a member and join our roundtables, and I'll try nearest damn it to guarantee your question will get read out. Does the rule about keepers only holding onto the ball for 6 seconds still exist, or has it been dropped? I think it still exists and is not adhered to. I remember Keith Hackett has got a podcast, and this was asked. I remember hearing that, and that's the kind of fun I have on my dog walks. But I think it's still there, but barely enforced. Sam, is that?
I wouldn't know, and that's why I should never be in the booth. But I do enjoy it when the fans give it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I can't remember which London club it is, but there's someone that still do it, and it always gets a big smile off my grid.
Amazing. Right, last one before we finish, guys. There's so many more questions I've not even read out there. We really, really do appreciate you, and apologies if you've asked more than one. But we'll finish with that. Sam, whose assists would you like to be receiving?
Right,
Can I give an answer?
Let me get the league table.
Yeah, it could be any player. Can I say Chris Waddle when he went back to Sheffield Wednesday and got like 70 assists in a season? I think you just have to stand in the middle.
All right,
of the box.
I'll give you 4. All right,
4.
I'm going to give you historically Ray Wilkins.
Oh, Ray Wilkins
was my hero with Sir Les, and Ray and Sir Les were telepathic. It was a look sometimes, or just head down. And he could play outside of the foot, free kicks, and Les would just move and he'd be completely unopposed because those two were just on this incredible wavelength. Outside of the foot, I've never seen anything like it. So I would say Ray Wilkins. I would say in modern day, I don't think anyone can get anywhere near Kevin De Bruyne.
Both feet as well.
Deliveries in terms of crosses to be headed, but also the little bendy ones down the side of the centre halves and inside the fullbacks. Incredible. I was going to say Leif Davis. Is that a shout?
Leif Davis is in there.
He's in there. That's my current one. And then if I'm just gonna dip slightly down from the Championship, right? I saw Jack Sparks at Pompey on Tuesday, right? I think they scored off 2 of his deliveries. I'm fairly sure Pompey are right up there in terms of set pieces scored in League One this season. And his left foot, my goodness me. So there's one, maybe for next season's podcast.
And no mention for Darren Curry.
He came into my mind just as I was saying it, because I didn't do one that I played with. Darren Curry, the only frustration, right, for you lovers of Peter Beagrie out there, and someone else I heard getting spoken about the other day, never really knew when it was going to come in.
Okay.
Because he just took his man on so many times that by the time it did come in, I'd made 19.
You made your 5th run.
I made 19 runs. I was breathing so heavy I couldn't get my napper on the ball.
Spectacular. Sam, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us as ever. Please do help us out. This is now episode 10 of this podcast. We think we're going great guns, but if you agree too, head over to Spotify or iTunes or Amazon or wherever you get your podcast. Leave a nice review. I don't know, say something about Sam's goal scoring record for Swindon or my hair or anything nice like that, or that you had a nice time listening to our.
I'm laughing at the comments. It's time to wrap up, isn't it?
I bet I know which one. Is it that one? Yeah.
Yeah. He's on fire. This chap.
You got me. 5-star reviews. Hit the like button. Get subscribing via the audio feed. We're going to be back next Thursday. We'll have a bit of spare time as well, being we've got no review segment to do, and we can do a bit more in the way of preview. And then 3-game week, away we go again. So keep coming and joining us each and every Thursday at 7 p.m. Sam, last word from you, my friend.
Eugene's just gone off my comments, but I'm going to go down and watch the old Tartan Army now, and I'm off to Glasgow for the weekend, as aforementioned. So everyone enjoy their Championship free weekend, but enjoy your League One, League Two internationals, and go well.
Lovely stuff, guys. Hopefully my voice is not glitching, and we will see you next Thursday.